This is Rick Malone for the San Francisco Symphony. In 1904, 2 years after the premiere of his grand and romantic Symphony No. 2, Jean Sibelius wrote, "Since Beethoven's time, all so-called symphonies, with the exception of those by Brahms, have been symphonic poems. In some cases, the composers have given us a program or have at least suggested what they had in mind. In other cases, it is evident that they were concerned with describing or illustrating something, be it a landscape or a series of pictures. That does not correspond to my symphonic ideal. My symphonies are music, conceived and worked out as musical expression without any literary basis. I am not a literary musician. For me, music begins where words leave off. A symphony should be music first and last." End quote. As usual, Sibelius was ahead of his time. This was the world of Salome and the Symphonia Domestica of Richard Strauss, Schoenberg's Pelléas und Mélisande, the Scriabin Divine Poem, Debussy's La Mer and his first book of Images for piano, Mahler's Sixth Symphony and the Kindertotenlieder, and Puccini's Madama Butterfly. And when Sibelius led the first performances of his new symphony in 1907, audiences were puzzled and even annoyed by this lean, tightly constructed, anti-romantic new work. It would be a few years before the music world caught up and other composers began paring down. 10 years before Prokofiev wrote his classical symphony, Sibelius wrote his. Sibelius' Symphony No. 3 is about nothing more than the joy of writing music. There's no imagery and no drama, except the drama of the music itself. It's all about creating interesting, even compelling music out of entirely neutral materials. And Sibelius introduces those materials right at the very beginning. The first is a dark, almost subterranean march introduced by the cellos and basses. The second is a syncopated tune in the violins. Followed by a woodwind melody with some attitude. This scurrying pattern of notes turns out to be the dominant element of the movement. They lead into a melody that the great musical analyst Donald Tovey says is a very typical feature of Sibelius, the emergence of a long-drawn melody from a sustained note that began, no one can say exactly when. End quote. It's an expansive melody that contrasts with the high energy of the movement's opening, until it eventually dissolves into more scurrying. Sibelius keeps things simple and economical, centering all of these scurrying patterns around just 4 notes. Sibelius abruptly switches gears to begin the coda in a ceremonial mode. And finishes with a sudden and not particularly triumphant Amen. Sibelius's third doesn't have a true slow movement, although the second movement is more relaxed. And its character suggests one of those wistful intermezzi by Schumann or Brahms. Not really slow, but not fast. Sibelius has some fun playing with the rhythm of the primary melody. After the two-note upbeat, where do the stresses fall on the next three notes? Are we supposed to hear the 6 beats in each measure as 3 times 2 or as 2 times 3? Sometimes it seems as though the answer is both, and even though the primary focus is on the flutes, clarinets, and violins, the basses have an opinion as well. As Sibelius said, there's no storyline here, no imagery and no drama to lose yourself in, except that of the musical events themselves. It's like Haydn. You can't do anything with it, except listen to it and enjoy it. Just before the end of the movement, and just for a moment, the conflict of 2 against 3 becomes troubling rather than charming. And the movement ends on a mysterious and inconclusive note. The opening of the finale, like the opening of the symphony itself, is restless. The tempo changes all the time, sometimes abruptly, sometimes gradually. At times, Sibelius can hardly crowd as many notes as he would like into each measure. While at others, he takes the time to stand still on a single note, or a pair, or a trill, or on one intricate chord. Fragments of melodies whisk by, and bits of the first 2 movements flicker, then disappear. Melodies come out of the shadows and then fade away, but one seems to stick. The heroic quality begins to build. Until, as Donald Tovey said, all threads are gathered up in one tune that pounds its way to the end with the strokes of Thor's hammer. End quote. A few years after he wrote his Third Symphony, Sibelius had a visit from Gustav Mahler. They talked about a lot of things, including how to write a symphony. Sibelius defended his conception of the symphony, saying that what he valued was severity of style and the profound logic that created an interconnection among all the motifs. Mahler politely disagreed with his famous pronouncement, "No, a symphony must be like the world. It must embrace everything." Well, as Mahler continued to expand, Sibelius began to pare down, and his Third Symphony paved the way for the return to the classical ideal that took hold of the musical world a few decades later. This is Rick Malone for the San Francisco Symphony.